Hello.
Hello. Hi.
So excited. Hi. Yeah. So excited for our call today.
Me too. I love any time we get to talk about this stuff and the work. It's what lights us both up, so I feel like it all just comes so naturally.
I totally agree.
Yes. Let's go. Okay. What are we talking about first today, Reese?
You tell me.
We're going to
I
talk
love
about
it.
we're going to well, I'd really like to talk about a topic that I think is sometimes somewhat underrated when it comes to the work that we do, because we talk so much about hypnosis, EFT, all the techniques that we teach in the S-Play method, for instance. But one of the most powerful things we can really utilize as a coach is the power of actively listening. And there's a couple of things I think we can talk about when it comes to that. And one is you building upon the skill of actually listening, and all that comes with that. And the other part is knowing what to listen for when you're working with somebody, because I think without those two really important elements as a coach or leader in any space, it doesn't matter how great your toolkit is, if you can't listen to what's really going on in your client's model of reality, you know. So I think I'll ask you a question first, Reese, if that's okay. I would like to ask you, when you first learned about active listening, did you find it difficult to apply straight away?
Yeah, I did actually because I've definitely always been a fixer. So if somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm like, okay, step one, take this action, go do this, go do that. So yeah, it was definitely hard to do that at first. But what I realize now is that if you're just jumping into to dos, first of all, if you as the coach or the friend come up with the to dos, they're probably not going to do them anyway because they haven't had the shift inside of them to recognize that that's what they want to do. Like, how often do we sit down with our friend and it's like, you should do this, you should do that. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then the next day they go back to living normal life because like ideas can be thrown around, but if you haven't changed on the subconscious level, you're just gonna be the same person.
It's so true, and I kind of chuckled when you mentioned like your friend and you check in tomorrow, because I'm actually in a mentorship program at the moment for a course I'm in, which I've been telling you about. And there's one thing that she keeps asking me, my success mentor keeps asking me if I've done, and I still haven't done it, but I know exactly what I need to do. And I just, so it's interesting that if you had been listening to me in that moment, you'd probably recognize, okay, the block is deeper. What else is going on that just isn't doing that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the facets of NLP that we talk about in our program is calibrate on behavior. So if the client's showing up every week and they're saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm so excited. Yes, I'm going to take action. But then their behavior is showing that they're not, we're not going to calibrate and react to what they're saying. We're going to calibrate and react to what they're doing. So dive into why aren't they doing it? Is it like a tangible thing they don't actually know how and we need to break down the steps and put it into an action plan? Or is it an emotional thing that they have some fear or feel like there's some threat on the other side of taking action? And then once you know what that is, you can release whatever's holding the person back and program in the new strategy, the new habits, the way of being, so that they can just take action and do it. But I think that's why majority of people, they set their New Year's resolutions and then 2 weeks later they forgot they even had a gym membership because it's it's not habitual, it's not in their subconscious mind. I think it really comes down to the identity, right? Because we're working with a lot of coaches, so everyone knows like if you want to essentially be a successful coach, be a thought leader, have people listen to what it is they have to say, you have to show up, like either whether it's YouTube, whether it's speaking, whether it's Instagram, you have to show up and talk. Like, how, if you're not talking, is anybody gonna listen to you, right? 99% of people know exactly what it is that they need to do, but they're not doing it because on a subconscious level, there's a fear, right? They have the fear, what will people think of me? They have the fear, what if I show up and something bad happens? What if people make fun of me? What if people judge me? What if I try something and I fail? And so what happens is people fail before they even start because they're not even putting themselves in a position to receive a no. They're telling themselves no before they've even tried. Yeah. So one of the things that I love to do with our clients is work on identity. Because if you are in the identity of course, what I have to say is valuable. Of course, I'm a thought leader, an author, a podcaster, a coach. When you're in that identity, if you're already that person, you're not worried what Larry from high school has to say. And you don't worry about people judging you about being in that old identity because you're already in that new identity. And so what happens is when you're in the identity of like, I've been through a lot, I changed my own life through shifting my mindset, and I know I can change other people and help other people change through what I have to say. That purpose overcomes any fear. It's like your dream is greater than you, so then you act greater than who you used to be.
Yeah, it even as I heard you say that, it was like this expansion of like I have to do this. This is something that's so much bigger than me. And so it's that calling. And so when we're listening for our clients and the desire is there, but the action isn't, that's something that we can help bridge the gap with,
Yeah. A
with
lot a
what
lot
we
of the
do.
time, yeah, I totally agree. A lot of the time, if somebody's in that place, that's when I use our strategies technique that we teach in the coaching certification. So I'll say, okay, when you go to do that thing, what's the very last thing that happens right before you go to do that thing? And then that person is usually able to pinpoint what's holding them back. So they're like, oh, I go to post on Instagram, but then I keep telling myself I have nothing to post about. Or I go to like plan my content, but then I don't know where to start, so then I just don't do anything. So then it's like, okay, now we've pinpointed the exact trigger that's putting you in the wrong direction. So let's release that and let's put in a new trigger that puts you in the right direction. Because we're all like computers, right? Like we can literally program stuff out and program stuff in. And that's why I want everyone to know about the subconscious mind, because life can be so simple when you just recognize what those triggers are and have the ability to change it for yourself.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you led us to that, because that's also now making me think of, in the program we teach active listening, and then it almost goes directly into sensory acuity and then powerful questioning. And I think that those things, they are just not to be underestimated. Like how you described then, you listened to what was going on, where the blocks were, you asked a powerful question that helped your client come outside of their problem. Because I really think we have our blinders on when we're inside our problem. Like we just see the problem reflected back to us everywhere. And so you as the coach, you've helped them pop out, and now you're going to help them build a new identity based on the version of them that actually does this with ease. And it actually can be that simple. You haven't even had to do a full release of fear or anything yet. Sometimes it really can be that simple of just popping them out, creating a new identity that aligns with the action they want to take, right? So powerful. I think that the reason I really wanted to talk about active listening is because when our amazing students come into the cohort, everybody, for the most part, is just really excited to learn the tools and get into the embodiment, the transformation stage of the course. And I think what makes a coach move into a stage of mastership, is that a word? Are we going with mastership? We're going to go with it. What helps them move, like really become more impactful, is being able to listen with such intent that you identify the root even quicker. That's what's going to make your sessions even more powerful, is flexing that muscle, so that rather than like working on that, then finding something else and finding something else and finding something else, you're able to listen and come in here and work there through listening, which it really is a skill that we need to practice, I believe.
Hmm. And so many people are so afraid to charge for their coaching because they're like, what if I'm not giving enough value? But if you know how to actively listen, that is so valuable. And a lot of the time, people can actually come to their own conclusions on their own. Because when they're ranting to their friends or their partner, they're gonna complain, "Oh, my boss did this, oh this or that," and then their partner's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, like let's beat him up, let's get revenge." Like most people won't listen. They're listening to talk or listening to like add a little comment or their feedback, but for someone to be present with you and you are just able to let it all out, like let out all the emotion, let the problem out, let what led you there and what you are or are not doing about it, and just have someone literally listen to you. A lot of times you'll realize, like, oh, wait, this isn't actually how I was seeing it before. Like I'm seeing this from a whole new perspective. And then yeah, when you're trained to actively listen for the root cause of the problem, then you're not just like, oh, let's get revenge. You're able to see like, okay, this is the root, this is where it came from, and then this is how we can help you shift to the positive version of it, like the version of you that you want to be.
Right, and Reese, the way you said that was so simple. And if I had listened to you 6 years ago before I started this journey, I'd have been like, okay, yeah, in an ideal world. But actually, when you go through and you train in this way, it is that simple. And your brain works in such a way that when someone's talking, you're kind of calibrating, you're listening, but there's also part of you that's picking up these key things to circle back to or ask a question on, and not just return with advice, but say, hey, I want to circle back to this. You said you always do this, and I want to ask you about that. And it opens up to new depths of conversation that I have found on both ends as a coach and the client to be hugely impactful. Even as an example, I had a friend just the other day who was like, Jess, can you just give me a session? I'm facing something. And, without sharing what she was going through, one of the things that came up was after having a really, really challenging year, she was scared to take opportunity that was coming her way that she'd manifested, that was making her really happy and really excited, but she was kind of slipping into self-sabotage. And so she came to me like, Jess, you just need to help me get out of my own way. I'm not doing this. And what I heard straight away was her comfort zone had become this kind of peaceful middle, and that the kind of upper limit of being in joy again, there was a fear of losing it. So we regulated around it's safe for me to step into that. We did all the things that you kind of just listed. And a week later, she's like, "Oh, I'm fine about it now." It really, she's doing the action, it's gone. It just, her body was reacting like it doesn't feel safe. And that's what I could hear through the training.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so many people think that if they're fearful or anxious about something, that means it's going to go wrong, so they won't take the opportunity. When really, fear and anxiety is totally normal. It's your body just trying to keep you safe, but your outcomes can be greater than the fear and anxiety. Like, you can say, okay, I can be in fear if I'm looking at the worst case scenario, or I can be in excitement if I'm looking at the best case scenario, and both opportunities have an equal opportunity for them to exist. So why don't I focus on what I want rather than what I don't want? And it's crazy how many people just stay in the same place because they're not willing to say, okay, fear is an emotion that I'm going to process, instead of fear is an emotion that I'm going to let lock me in a cage and stay in the same place.
That's so powerful. It's so true. Did you know that I don't know who told me this. I think I have an idea who told me this, but there's a coach in Hollywood whose whole practice is just working on people's fear of losing their success. That's all she works with, like A-list celebrities, because one of the biggest things when people get to, whatever, and I don't think Hollywood's just an example because I heard about this coach, but um, in any scenario, like when you get success, then a fear of losing it comes in. Like fear is always available and it never has to mean anything about what's going to happen.
I totally agree. I Another huge reason why I wish everyone knew these tools is for all of our kids. Like I wish everyone knew this because like you're saying, people think like, oh, when I get successful, I'm not going to feel any more bad emotions. It's like, no, 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 no. It's not about making a certain amount of money or having a certain amount of success. If you want to not have to feel or be trapped in the bad emotions, you have to learn how to manage your emotions. Like the most important thing to learn is managing your emotions and resilience, because then you can get through everything. Because we hear of people who make millions of dollars and then still end up in terrible outcomes, right? And vice versa, people who are not successful and whatever. um like I just heard of a beautiful actress the other day who passed away because of alcohol, right? So it's like, just because you have unlimited money doesn't mean that you're still not numbing your emotions. So you have to learn how to not numb your emotions, but process them, um and let them go.
Because
Yeah,
it's again, sorry, I thought I got
no,
excited, but it's like
yeah,
it's this habit of putting the answer outside of ourselves. So it's either the
exactly.
money, the goal, or the something that's going to be the rescuer in our journey. When I get that, I'll be rescued. I'll be better. The relationship, whatever it is. And I think what we teach and why the value of the company is like a coach in every household is because then everybody would understand that you have to find that first no matter what. Of course, you can have all of those things you desire, but none of them are going to be the rescuer. You have this power that is greater than what we even can possibly imagine. And when we learn these tools, we can get our blinders off and start to see it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it just reminds me of a topic of conversation that's coming up a lot for me lately, because I have a G Wagon, for which a long time was like my dream car. But every so often, like when I first came to Florida and I didn't have my car with me, and then recently I got it, the air conditioning fixed. When I'm driving the Nissan Armada, I actually feel like I'm in more of a luxury car than my G-Wagon, which is like Mercedes. So it's like, because it's like it's more roomy, it's better for having kids. It's made for, yeah. And so it's like, luxury is how you feel. It's not like the logo, it's not the thing on the outside. It's like, it's not how big the house is. It's how you feel when you're in the house, right? So, and I think that goes the same too. It's like not how much money is in your bank account. It's like, how did you feel to make the money, or how do you feel how you're using the money? Or like you said, if you're that coach you were just talking about, if you're more anxious about losing it all, like
Right.
you were better off to just not make as much or
Not
something
make
like
his,
that.
yeah. Now it's like, I think something is that powerful that when we were in Miami, I asked you a question about a launch we'd just had, and your answer back to me, and it stayed with me for forever, is that I work so much around rehearsing and visualizing my desired outcome that by the time it comes, it feels like, I can't remember the wording you used exactly, but it feels quite normal. And I think that that is how you're able to stay so grounded and in control. And, that's an opportunity for us all, is actually when you practice the what you want to happen through visualization and through these tools, you're ready for it. Whereas what we're often doing is the opposite. We're practicing what we don't want to happen. So if it goes well, we don't actually know what to do. You're like, oh, I've got all this money, or I've got this relationship, or I've got, and then a lot of people are out there sabotaging these moments because they haven't regulated and they haven't done the work to expand to receive whatever it is they desire.
Oh my gosh, such a good example. Our client, Pollyann Timmer, she went through the S Supply method a few years ago, and she's a relationship coach. But this is what she focuses on. She focuses on women who are in healthy relationships, but are prone to self sabotaging because of
Oh,
anxiety. And she helps them work
wow.
through that, because they're like, I realize I'm in a healthy relationship. I realize my partner is amazing, but I keep worrying about this. I keep over analyzing this,
Mm,
or nagging this or whatever, because their brain is going to the worst case scenario. And it's like, yeah,
mm,
you can have it all, but if you can't hold it, you might actually be the one
mm. You
back
might, yeah.
to square one.
Wow.
So her whole, like she's, making six figures as a relationship coach. She's doing great. So there's definitely like a huge need and a huge
Yes,
demand for it, not just getting to that great place, but actually being able to maintain it and then get to the next level.
absolutely. And I really, really think that's also an example of how that is applicable for whatever your desire is.
Hmm.
Like,
Oh, for
be it
sure.
the relationship, the money, the business, this like the kind of the process in many ways is the same when you work with the subconscious mind, because we're not working with the actual content, we're working with the context of how it shows up inside our client's reality.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And so often when something is showing up in my reality, I'm looking at it and then I'm saying, oh, I know why this is showing up because I still have this
Mm.
emotion to
Yeah,
process.
I've been doing that recently. I'm like, ah, yeah, there it is, because I
Yeah.
know that there's that belief's there. One of the things that's coming up for me as we're talking about listening is like when I first started learning this work and started coaching, I would listen, but I would instantly relate and want to share how I had overcome it or what worked for me. So I'm listening, but with the lens of my model of reality. And so
Hmm.
going in deep about the model of reality, like we do, and you talk through it so amazingly in the embodiment section as well, is
Hmm.
understanding the question is, how is this showing up in my client's world?
Totally. Yeah. I think like I think it's with balance. So I think it's important to first find out how it's showing up in the client's world and giving
Hmm.
them the opportunity to work through it because how they work through it might not be how you would have worked through it. So we want to give
Right,
their subconscious mind the time to process. But I do think that if the person is feeling stuck or like there's no option, sharing a
right.
metaphor from your personal life in a powerful way
Yes,
can be powerful to help them move through it because storytelling is actually a very powerful subconscious
so true.
transformation tool. So I always like to
Yes.
start with like diving into what the client's saying with questions because I'd love to help them figure it out in their own unique, beautiful way. But yeah, storytelling can transform lives. And then also too, as a coach, creating content, that's such a powerful
Mm,
place to like share that story because that will probably draw in more of your ideal clients. Because it's like they'll hear it and they'll say, oh, she relates to where I am. She's been through it.
mm,
She was able to move through it with the swish technique or neural energetic encoding or hypnosis or whatever it is. And now she's on the other side. So I know if she can do it, I can do it too. And that helps
mm.
people be lining up to work with you.
Yeah, and you're an expander. You're someone who helps them see the way, the path, and that it's possible for them.
Yeah, expander. That's such a perfect word.
I really agree with the storytelling. It's actually one of my favorite classes. Again, like the kind of not underrated, but the ones that go a little bit more under the radar. They're not the swish and the hypnosis and the big tools which are so life changing, but the metaphors and storytelling class that we run in the Yes Supply method is actually one of my favorites
Yeah,
to teach,
it
to
can be
be
so
in, to
important.
all of it.
I agree. So many times someone shares a story and I'm like, can you please write a book or like make a children's book and get that illustrated because it's
Right.
so. But yeah, I agree. I think people utilize it and undersee the value, especially with your marketing. Like we teach it how to use it in your sessions, but I think it's also so important to translate it into like your marketing when you're showing up on podcasts or public speaking or anything like that because storytelling is ingrained in our DNA, right?
Mm,
So if I give you 5 facts and then I give you the same 5 facts embedded into a story, you're going to be that much more likely to remember it if I gave it in the storytelling process. Even if you don't
yeah.
remember all the intricacies, you'll be like, I remember this story of this girl who da da da, and then she increased this by like 17% or something because it was shared in a story. So I think all of us as like coaches, anyone building their brand, anything like that, take your life learnings and everything like that, or take even the data points that you want to share and bring it into a story if you really care about people remembering it more because like
Mm,
that's how we pass down information through evolution. It was through stories, like literally the old man at
right.
the campfire telling you how to like hunt or go fishing or sew
Yeah,
your clothes or whatever it is, like it's all through stories.
that's so powerful. I had chills thinking about the way you just said it's like through the DNA, because I totally agree. And I think the facts, remembering facts through a story is so powerful. And also, rather than giving advice, which will often be rejected, telling it through a story, like if you want them to feel better about it, your client might relate more to a story where they see themselves in the story rather than you
Mhm.
saying, you'll be fine, you've got this. That will probably just
Exactly.
bounce straight off them. Whereas if you say, well, I had this story about this woman and she did this and she found it hard and she was here and then she overcame it and she did it, they're probably going to start to feel like more related to it.
When I was like around the time I was first starting Yes Supply, I felt like I was putting in work, putting in work, putting in work, and not seeing any output. And I remember calling my cousin, and she told me a story that her dad would always tell her, that my uncle would always tell her. And it was about the bamboo plant. So, with a lot of plants, you
Mm,
plant the seed, and within a few weeks or a few months, it shoots up. But with the bamboo plant, you plant a seed and you have to nurture the soil and water it for 5 years. And then in a matter of weeks, it will shoot up like 40 feet tall, like
mm,
taller than all of the other plants. And when she
wow.
told me that story, even though it's about bamboo, and I am not bamboo, it somehow
No.
made me believe that I was just putting in the work and nurturing the soil and watering my garden and that I was gonna shoot up higher than I ever believed. And her telling me
Yeah.
that story helped me keep going in a hard time. So it's so powerful, whether the story is about another person or about bamboo or a goldfish
So
or
true.
a
Yeah.
little engine that could. It is like hypnosis for our subconscious to help us
Yeah.
believe in whatever the lesson or the moral of the story is.
And look, how many years later you're here remembering that moment. Whereas
Yeah,
if she had just said to you, oh, Reese, like you're just putting the work in now and it will pay off later,
exactly. I wouldn't have remembered
you
it.
wouldn't remember the conversation. So that
That's
you just proved your point perfectly.
it's It really is a testament. I always think, I'm like, thank you for telling me that bamboo story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it because none of this would be here, right? If you hadn't continued, which I'm sure you would have because you're resilient, but like we all have those question marks and those moments help us on our way.
Yeah, thank you so much for anyone who's watching. If you are interested in any of the subconscious techniques that we are sharing and you want to learn how to coach your clients with subconscious techniques, I definitely encourage you to look into the Yes Supply method. You walk away with 5 certifications in neurolinguistic programming, neural energetic encoding, neural energetic wiring, EFT tapping, hypnosis, and mindset coaching, so that you feel like a confident coach and you're surrounded by a beautiful community that is there to support you every step of the way. And if you're watching this and you want to learn how to use the techniques for yourself, then I encourage you to look into Yes, It's Yours. So we'll put all the links below and make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.